Before we dive into this episode, I just want to let you know, if you want to get access to episodes before anybody else, head on over to patreon.com/concerts that made us. And as a bonus, you'll get access to videos of some of the episodes and a host of other benefits. We've also teamed up with Band Builder Academy to offer you 10% off their membership. Details of both can be found in the show notes below.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, Concerts That Made Us. Interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts, concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
Hey, this is Ryno from Truth Decayed, and you are listening to the Concerts That Made Us.
you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you now. I'm looking forward to diving into your music over the next bit. So you released the highly anticipated second chapter of Faded Visions on the 7th of July. What can you tell us about it?
Well, we're very happy with the reception so far. It was a little bit nerve-wracking because we did get a good response for part one, and obviously, trying to follow up anything that did fairly well was quite a challenge. But so far, with the first single that we released prior to the 7th, it was looking good, and it was a song that did well for us at live shows. So yeah, it's still very much a similar approach to Faded Visions. One, delving into like psychology of human beings and what makes us tick, I suppose, in many ways. But I think it was a lot more personal this time around, whereas the part one was a bit more like of a commentary of other people. I think we dove a little bit deeper within like our own personal experiences this time around.
And how has the band evolved since the release of the first chapter?
Well, there was one lineup change. We did end up with a new bass player, Renz Kruger on the bass. He's definitely brought an interesting dynamic because he's a guitar player himself as well, but plays bass in the band. He has a very good musical knowledge and he listens to a lot of different stuff to us. So I think that also brought a whole range of new influences into the music. And also our drummer, Dan, on part one was very much in a session capacity initially, especially in the writing of it. So he's also definitely brought a lot of his influences, which are quite different to Warren and myself as well, into the band. He's into like a lot of more modern type metal, and you can definitely hear it in the drums this time around, I think, in many ways.
Yeah, definitely. Now it was produced, I hope I don't butcher this name, but it was produced by Kris Xenopoulos from Vulvodynia. What was it like trying to find the right producer, and how did you manage to wrangle Kris onto the project?
Okay, well, firstly, just on topic of the pronunciation of his name, I'm also never sure if I get it right, but I think you you nailed it. Well, we worked with Kris on part one as well, and just like the last time, very good and easy experience. He's very down to earth and humble and very patient for someone with his background, and being in a successful band that he's in as well. There's never any ego clashes or anything like that. He's very professional though, and very I suppose the right word would be thorough. So we had to be very careful of our takes, and if he doesn't hesitate sending stuff back, which is a good thing because it does bring out a better product at the end of the day. But it's always a pleasure working with him, and very easygoing guy, and also a good musical brain as well. So like he definitely brings a big approach to the mastering side that perhaps we wouldn't have thought of. And our drummer Dan being a producer as well, him and Kris obviously worked very closely on this, and definitely made a difference as opposed to part one where yet again Dan was more in a session capacity. I think it did bring out a better product at the end of the day.
Oh, I see. And what do you think the record says about you guys as a band?
Perhaps four very different personalities, but definitely a common thread between all of us. I definitely feel you can feel everyone's input a lot more on this one, as I said earlier. Renz comes from a very sort of 90s grunge background. He's a big Soundgarden fan, Pearl Jam fan, and so on. Dan definitely brought a lot of that modern elements into it. And Warren and I are more like the classic guys. We enjoy a lot of the classic thrash metal. Lyrically, this time around, it was still very much Warren and myself that wrote. Warren did write a bulk of the lyrics, and he's got quite an interesting take on how he writes. And it's very personal in a way, but without giving up too much of himself. But I think it's definitely four unique personalities that found a common ground. So I suppose that's the best I can describe it.
Right. It definitely works anyway. And I'm always intrigued to find out what's your favorite and least favorite part when it comes to creating new music.
Okay, so for me personally, I enjoy writing and constructing and putting songs together. I absolutely hate the recording process.
Right.
I really don't like it at all. I prefer playing live. I prefer, playing through a part more in its completion, whereas with the recording process, it can be quite mundane and redundant and a lot of repetition and working on minuscule parts. But yet again, that's for a better product at the end of the day. So I definitely say that's my least favorite part. I think Warren, in many ways as well, would fall into that category. Ren's really seemed to enjoy the recording process, and he's very quick as well. So I think, yeah, in his case, it might be, I think he just enjoys everything. But for me personally, yeah, you asked least and favorite part. So, yeah, favorite part is definitely the constructing of the songs, seeing things come together. But yeah, the recording process, that's the absolute pits, in my opinion.
I hear that a lot. A lot of musicians hate the recording process.
Although funny enough, sorry to break there, but when it comes to the vocal part, I don't mind recording that. It's just the guitar parts that drive me nuts.
Right. And you guys formed in 2020. How did the band actually come to be?
It was literally Warren and myself. We were long-time friends, but we hadn't jammed together in years, and even before that, we weren't in anything too serious together. We've been in different bands over the years that were quite serious, but never, as a unit, which is quite strange considering we got a plus 20-year friendship, probably even more. And it was just during COVID times, we were all stuck at home, I suppose, doing our thing. And I'd released my solo album, and it had kind of run its course as best as it could during COVID. Very different to Truth Decayed, that kind of music. It was more like ambient, stoner, well, not even stoner rock, like just trippy kind of stuff. But I just got a feeling that I wanted to play metal again, and I just wrote some parts and I sent them through to Warren just for interest's sake, and just like, hey, what do you think of this? And then it just became like a back and forth of sharing ideas. And then eventually we thought, well, why don't we just do something with this? And that's at its core where it really started. And I think the times we were going through definitely influenced a lot of the lyrical writing at that point and everything. And I don't think we expected it would take off in any way, really. I think we looked at it more just as a hobby to look at some other musical interests. But yeah, it ended up being quite a pleasant surprise, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to ask, what's it like being in a thrash metal band in South Africa? I'd imagine it's not the biggest or the most popular genre over there.
Yeah, in my opinion, I'd say a lot of the core stuff does really well, at the moment. But not that that's hampered any success or anything like that. We've done well, and we've been blessed to play some really cool festivals and events and everything like that. We just finished a tour in Cape Town now recently, which was really cool. That's like right south of South Africa, and beautiful city though. But it was our first time playing there. But yeah, it's definitely not the most popular genre. But I think the fact that we do cross over and we're not strictly thrash, we do draw a lot of old school death metal influence. And I've heard people say we've got some core, like metalcore influences our stuff. We make sure we put some meaty breakdowns as well. Breakdowns do really well in South Africa, I'd say. But the core scene is definitely the stronger thing. Yeah, I'd say like deathcore, that type of thing, deathcore and anything like that. But we seem to fit in well with them. I don't know why. Maybe it is because we draw other influences. Dan, our drummer, as I said, brings a lot of the more sort of modern side of it, and I think that's helped a lot as well. But there's not many thrash metal bands. The handful that there are, in my opinion, are really good. But I think I can count about 4 that I can think of offhand. But all amazing bands, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Right. And right from the beginning, you had success. Your debut single earned the top position on France the Planet's Metal Madness Week competition. You won the Metal Lab UK Battle of the Bands, and your debut EP received critical acclaim worldwide with positive reviews from Metal Hammer. That's just to name some of your achievements. Now, we'd be here all day if I named all of them. But, what's the secret to your success, especially in a band so earlier on?
Well, firstly, thank you for the kind words, and I'm not too sure. I mean, we definitely still got a long way to go, and if you compare with the likes of some of the bigger bands, yeah, we've still got some work to do. But um, I think a lot of it had to do just with communicating with people as much as possible, especially like it's something we do try to. If anyone drops a comment on any of our social media platforms and stuff, we try to reply as quickly as we can. And in as honest a manner as we can, like not just try and make it not just generic replies or stuff. And if we get DMs or stuff, you know we try our best to engage with people as much as possible. And I think that definitely helped a lot. We were very fortunate to get a lot of merch sales, especially internationally in the beginning. And I don't think that would have been possible if we didn't engage with people, because it would just be like, okay, well, I like this band, but if they're not chatting further, then not that I'm saying that every band has to form like strong lifelong friendships with every single person that listens to it. But I think that was definitely something. And we always try to take a friendly approach, as much as we can, so I think that was definitely a part of it. I'm hoping that our sound had something to do with it as well. At least from Faded Visions 1 onwards, working with Kris, I think definitely made a difference, because our first EP that came out, the 2-track EP, was very well received for the actual music, but obviously it was a rush production and everything like that. But definitely stepping up from that, I think, made a difference. But yeah, I think the main thing is just try and be as friendly as possible. Like, not that that's necessarily going to bring success, but not too sure how to word it, but just try and be as sincere as possible as we can. And yeah, hopefully the music did play a big part in it. I think it did. People seem to really enjoy and connect with it. Also, maybe just some of the lyrical content definitely seemed to help with songs like PTSD and stuff that we did. We did have a lot of people connect, whether they people that suffer from PTSD or any other mental health condition. They related to it in some degree. So I think the lyrical content also to some degree might have helped. Also, especially in COVID times, writing about like things that people were going through at the times. I think could have maybe in the early days like had some connection with people. They were all going through the same shit, and if they could connect with it in some way, yeah, but that's probably that, I think.
Definitely, definitely. And at this stage, so we'll dive into your early influences. Now, it's a bit of a tricky one. If you can you remember your earliest musical memory?
Well, for myself and Warren, because we were friends so far back, I don't think I can remember a specific early memory, but we listened to a lot of the same music. And my cousin was a very big metal and rock fan at that time, and he definitely corrupted us at an early age. So it would probably be something like Appetite for Destruction from Guns N' Roses, or Master of Puppets from Metallica, or any of Maiden's early albums. Literally like the full-on classics. So yeah, what really caught me? Probably anything by Maiden. Can I Play with Madness or something like that? I was just exposed to a lot of good music at a very young age, so it's not a pinpoint specific answer, but yeah, I was exposed to what I regard as a lot of good stuff back then, and it just kind of stuck.
Right.
Yeah.
And during your teenage years, when you were in school and everything, what sort of music were you exposed to by your peers, and how do you think it influenced you as the musician you are today?
Well, there was a brief period of embarrassment playing sports in school and doing well with that, where I suppose I might have had a brief jock phase. And then I wouldn't perhaps call that the best music, although I think all music shapes us to some degree, and I do listen to a lot more music than just metal. I think I appreciate it now more as an adult. But definitely when I got back into metal, and that's very much Warren's fault again, because we sort of like cross paths again, and we started hanging out and listening to some good music. I really got into Black Sabbath at that time. And I know a much older band, and I should have actually known him probably when I was listening to Maiden before that, when I was much younger. But that definitely caught my attention again, just the good riffs. And yeah, and as you say, being a teenager, you're going through sort of all sorts of stuff. I went through that jock phase and got out of that. And then I think I became like your typical, I don't want to say antisocial, but like along those lines as a teenager. And but as I grew older, it like sort of matured into something a bit more positive, I think, where you can take like these negative things and bring it into like a positive atmosphere. Not sure if I'm answering a question 100% correct yet, but like, it definitely, especially living in a country that has daily challenges and stuff like that as well. I think the music can definitely channel you into passing the aggression in like a positive manner, to put it that way. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I agree. And as a concert goer, what concerts do you think have made you?
well, there's been so many. Definitely enjoyed seeing Metallica for the first time. I was already out of school by then and all that. Got to see them a bit later. Iron Maiden was definitely a great experience. But there's one concert I remember seeing Haste Today many years ago. Not as big as the previous two bands that I mentioned, but that was quite a strange experience because it was just at one of our local nightclubs, Burn Nightclub, which is a legendary club here in Durban. But it was like a normal metal club, metal alternative club, and that was quite a unique experience because they actually hung out with the fans and stuff. It's not like they weren't hanging out in the green room the whole night and everything like that. And that one stuck. I think they were just phenomenal. And like, I think because they weren't as huge a production, the fact that they could bring that kind of sound and energy definitely like made me know that you could be relevant even if you're not a multi-platinum selling band or something like that, because that one sticks in my mind despite seeing a lot of really, really big acts. So yeah, I think that was quite a special one for me, to be honest. Yeah.
Right. And in the past, from speaking to musicians, I've heard about the music scene in Cape Town and Joburg. But what's the music scene like in Durban?
Very different in many ways. Durban has always had a venue problem. We had two long-standing venues. The one that I mentioned earlier was Burn, which was definitely a very beloved place, and another one was the Winston, which was also very much beloved, the Winston pub. The Winston pub just closed down, I think it was about a year ago or something like that. That was a very sad moment because it had been saved so many times before and finally closed down. And I'd say a lot of Durban bands, at least the better or sort of more successful bands, are really hardworking. They grafters, they really have to put a lot of work in to get out. And I suppose any scene in South Africa will say they're struggling in some way, but like the Joburg scene compared to us, for example, is very well supported. They get good turnouts quite often, not necessarily every single gig, and a lot of the big bands come from there as well. A lot of the big promoters are there, and they all work very hard there to do it. And they've definitely set a very high standard. Cape Town, in many ways, as well. Our experience there recently was absolutely phenomenal as well. But also just like some of the stages that they have and some of the venues that they have are, like we just don't have that in Durban. We had it briefly with a place called Live many years ago, which was probably the only thing that comes up to the standards of their top venues. But one thing I will say about the Durban scene in recent years, it is definitely growing. We've got two promoters that have, over the last year or two, really gotten stuck in and brought a lot of bands from Joburg and all that over, even some internationals. But it's a much smaller scene in many ways, particularly for alternative music in general. We just don't have the numbers that they have in those places. So that definitely is a factor because, you need money to grow a scene. And if promoters aren't making as much as they should or running at loss and stuff, it does make things very difficult. So it's very noble of them to do what they do. But Durban bands, I will say, work very hard. And one thing I can say is, although we're quite far behind the Cape Town and Joburg scene, when we do have bands like, say, Theatre Runs Red, which is one older band that we had here that did really well, and any bands like that, when they do get people's attention, people are often like shocked because the quality is right there. It's right up there with what's going on in other scenes. It just takes a while longer sometimes for people to notice it. So yeah, our bands work hard, and it's a very small scene, and we've got to work very hard to get concerts going. And especially now with literally no venues, the promoters have to work very hard. Firstly, that will have venues that will let metal in, and also to try and make it a success and get the numbers. But when we get it right very well. I can say that. Yeah.
Oh, good to hear. Good to hear. And, I'm really looking forward to this now. Your shows, for any listeners that haven't caught them, give them the full experience. Tell us all about them.
Okay. Our shows, I'd say, are very raw in nature. We like to engage with the crowd as much as we can. If we're on a stage that's like almost at floor level, we will get off the stage and we will join the mosh pit. I've had guitars bomb out at shows many times because I've had people step on cables and stuff like that. But that is definitely a big part of what we try to do. We try engage with the crowd as much as we can. We try to keep it as energetic as we can. We try not to talk too much nonsense. We'll, like on the last couple of shows we did, we literally banged out the new EP 4 songs in a row without really talking to the crowd. And then we chat a little bit and then we get to the, the older stuff that we got and so on. So we try to just keep the ball rolling, get on there, just smack it out. It's thrash metal, so it's got to be nice and fast and sweaty. And that's what we try to do. We don't always necessarily get walls of death or circle pits or anything like that, but we do get a lot of people really pushing and people going down and all that. And it's all good fun, and that's definitely what we try to get at. If the crowd is there and they're willing, we will give everything we can on stage as well. Good old traditional headbanging as well, sore necks, messy hair afterwards, except for myself, of course. And it's a good time, I think, and definitely very, very raw and very. We'll try to keep it as wild as we can. Yeah,
sounds like a good time. And is there any gig out of all the gigs you've played? Is there one that you maybe revisit in your head as the most perfect experience you've had?
That's a tough question because there's been so many, and like we genuinely really appreciate like so many of the good shows that we've had. There's been a few. Definitely the last Cape Town trip we did was very memorable in many ways. Playing with Vulvodynia for the first time, that was a good one, and we definitely had a good response from the crowd there. But I'm trying to think of one in particular. We do play at a venue in KZN, so it's our province, but it's not our city, called Howick. And there was one particular show there. I think we played there 3 or 4 times already. I think it might have been the second time we played there. Where I do this thing where I'll get off the stage. It's quite a low stage, and then we get a lineup of people. They, literally form like a whole wall, and they all like, cross their arms around each other and they headbang together in the front there. So with the nice nasty breakdown we got. So definitely one of those Vern shows I would put right up there. Those crowds get wild, and they're very passionate. But there's honestly been so many. We're really appreciative. We haven't had many experiences of like crowds that don't respond well. One that I will point out, actually, now that I think about it, our good friend Franz, the Planet that you mentioned earlier, he had that contest that we did well in there, and he brought a bunch of bands from Joburg for a Durban tour. And we always get worried with these kind of things because, like I say, Durban can be very hit or miss. But like I say, when Durban gets it right, they really got it right. And both the shows that he did, with his bands went really well and were very well received. Good turnouts as well. And I play in different bands. So my one band played on the second night, but the first night, which was the metal night, at a place called Robson's, that was a good show. That place was packed. That crowd was feeling it. And not just we did well on the night, all the bands did very well on the night as well. But like, that was a pretty crazy mosh pit. And I'd have to put that one up there, I think, because it was with a good friend, good experience, and just good times all around.
Ah, brilliant, brilliant. Now, not to get too negative, but to switch it around, is there a gig you would say was the worst experience you've had, and how did you deal with it?
Okay, so there was one in particular. I'm not going to mention the gig or the name because I don't want to. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. But it was a gig that we travelled out for, and I just think the whole event as a whole was a bit poorly planned, and there was other things going on that conflicted with it. And you know when you just like have a whole row of things happening, and like it just kind of tells you shouldn't do the show or something like that. Like we should have followed our guts on that. But that being said, the friendship and the vibes and everything that went on was still really good. It just literally ended up being our worst show ever. And like I say, we haven't had many shows that we can call disappointing or anything like that, but that one on many levels unfortunately was. But aside from that, the vibes and the bands and everyone there was it was a good vibe. But yeah, I won't mention names or anything like that because I definitely don't want to bring anyone down. But yeah, there definitely was one, and it was just everything that could go wrong went wrong. And in South Africa, we got load shedding as well, which you might have read about in the news and stuff. And like that was one of the things as well. Like almost every band on the night was affected by load shedding. They had generators, but the generators weren't working too well at the show as well. So like literally, I'm talking about some bands like 3 stoppages within a set, within a 30 or 40-minute set. Yeah, was a horrid experience in many ways, but at least the vibes between the bands and everything was good. So it wasn't completely awful, but yeah.
At least there was some positive anyway. And you know, when it comes to your stage show, how do you work on it and keep it fresh and exciting for the next show?
That is a difficult one. In the beginning, especially, it was difficult when we didn't have a lot of songs, and to this date, we haven't played any covers, so we've never tried that to like pull anyone or anything like that. Not that we're against covers, it's just not something we ever felt we need to do. I think we just try up the game a lot more. Like our original lineups had some inexperienced people and stuff like that, so they weren't exactly the most active on stage, but like getting Renz in the band now on bass, he brings a big energy with him. He's got a very good stage presence. So like that kind of thing helps a lot. And he's also taken on backing vocal duties. So it also allows me to engage with the crowd a bit more and get stuck in there while he can, hold the fort in the mic for a bit. We've now recently introduced a bit of like electronics, not like dance music or anything like that, but we've got the pad, which has the nice big nasty booms that come and just some like cool intros and stuff like that. So I think we always try bring out new ideas like that. Like don't be scared to introduce a little bit of electronica. I mean, bands like Lorna Shaw and stuff do it greatly, Slaughter to Prevail and so on. So although we maybe perhaps labeled as a thrash band or whatever, we do try bring these elements in. And I think we just do try keep our shows as exciting as possible. If there's a cabinet to climb on stage, we do it. If there's something to jump off, we'll do it. If you bail, you just take it and shake it off. So yeah, very much a lot of stage theatrics, I think. One day we might run out of ideas. We might need some Rammstein pyrotechnics or something like that. Venue or like, I don't know. But yeah, we do try bringing new elements as much as we can. One thing we definitely try to do is just be energetic on stage, move as much as possible, and if you want the crowd to headbang, you got to headbang. It's as simple as that. So yeah, I suppose that's one of our mottos.
Right. It's a good one. And if you can talk about it now, what kind of antics do you guys get up to when you're touring around? Any wild parties or anything you can share?
Well, 2 of us are turning 40 this year and stuff, so we're probably pretty boring in that way. But some of the members of the band are like proper stoners, so there are some funny moments that come out from that. Yeah, some of the guys get very talkative, some of the guys get very quiet. Not much. We enjoy good food, I suppose. If you asked us 20 years ago, maybe if we were a band then, it would have been very different. I know Dan definitely, if you ever get to interview Dan, he can tell you some stories from his punk rock days as a young kid. But yeah, nothing too exciting really, I suppose. I think we keep that for the stage. But yeah, I think we all got a pretty wicked sense of humor, and we do always the guitarist Warren, we tease him a lot because we've literally come to like we got the saying, "Damn it, Warren!" Like if anything ever goes wrong in your life, it's his fault. I don't actually even know how that started, but that's a bit of a running joke. But yeah, I suppose we're pretty normal dudes behind the scene, not too much. But we do enjoy a good time, and yeah, but unfortunately, nothing too saucy. We're not Led Zeppelin. Yeah.
And when it comes to showtime, then, rituals, pre-show and post-show rituals, how do you kind of get the energy levels up and psych yourself up beforehand? And then afterwards, how do you calm down?
Okay, afterwards is quite difficult. The calming down, I suppose some of the guys might just have a joint or something like that just to come down. I personally enjoy like chatting to people after the show. I'll try, like, especially if I recognize people that were really into it, I'll try to chat to them a lot after the show and like try and get feedback and stuff like that. So that's quite grounding for me, because the buzz does last quite a while afterwards. Pre-show rituals, Dan is very sort of I don't want to say stoic in nature, but he gets very quiet and he like gets in his own. Renz is a bit of a wilder personality, so he'll like get himself sucked up in whichever way, whether it be to warm up vocals or anything like that. I'm very much like that as well, in that I like to do a lot of vocal warm ups, because otherwise I feel like I want to pass out on stage. Funny enough, we don't really do anything too much as a group together. We sort of all get into our own space. I don't even know what Warren does before a show, to be honest. he might even meditate or something like that. He's so calm in every aspect. So like, I really don't know what he gets up to. I do a lot of vocal warm-ups. I remember one show, I was at a festival, so we didn't really have a green room or anything like that. So I went to like the one end of the field where we were at, and I was doing my vocal warm-ups, and this dude actually came up to me, like I didn't even see him coming. He comes up to behind me and he's like, "Are you okay?" Like I think he thought I was having an episode or something like that. Like, because I can suppose it looks quite strange. Like I'm screaming and then I'm like bending down because I'm about to pass out or whatever, because I'm trying to like, just find my balance. And this poor dude thought something was going on with me. So that's usually what I'm doing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Unwinding, yeah, for me personally, definitely. Chatting to people afterwards is quite a grounding experience. It just like sort of brings things to a level ground afterwards.
Yeah. And what does success mean to you when it comes to your career?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Because I suppose it's a multi-layered answer. Plus, I think success is very what's the word I'm looking for? It's different for everyone. For me, do I feel my music is relevant? Do I feel it reaches people, especially in metal? It's very difficult to say. I mean, you could be a really big band and still struggle financially. Let's be honest, most big bands do struggle financially. They got to hustle in all sorts of ways. Unless you really get a big break like Metallica, then something on that level. Financial success is not a good gauge, because then you're never really going to feel successful. Because us bands know what kind of money you spend and what kind of debt you can get into and so on. But I think relevance is important. Do people like our music? Are people streaming our music? Are people watching our videos? Are people still messaging or interested in our music in some way? Are people still commenting like, "Hey, this song did this for me," or especially if people message and like say that the song touched them in some way, like that's quite a rewarding moment, and I think that's a moment of success. Also, like, how do crowds respond at your shows? Are they into it, or are they just kind of standing there politely watching? That's why if I can get a crowd going, that I regard that as a sign of success. Do they respond to antics when you put your hand up and try and get them to scream? Are they screaming? Like those are measures of success that I see, because success, it is a multi-layered word. If you go on financial success is obviously a thing, and if you're selling merch or doing well, that's obviously a good sign. But for me personally, it would be relevance, especially being in the metal genre. If I was in pop or something like that, then maybe it would matter a little bit more in terms of numbers and stuff like that. But for me, I'll keep doing this if people are still interested, and that I regard as successful. And if my music can touch a person on a deeper level, well, that's even better. Then that's a better line of success, because then long after the band has gone, that song or this band might mean something to them still. So yeah, for me personally, that's what I regard as success.
Good one. Yeah, I like that one now. And is there any like bucket list items or achievements you want to tick off the list in the future?
Definitely a few. Some of them have been achieved. Like one was to get to play with Vulvodynia, especially considering that we worked with Kris, on such a close level. So getting to perform with them in their Durban show this year, that was definitely one off the bucket list. Um, I've had a few, like in terms of size of crowds that I'd like to play or venues. So playing at we got Sonnage, which is a venue here in Joburg, which is a very nice venue. We got the opportunity to play there last year. They got beautiful lighting there and everything. So that's definitely one off the bucket list. Um, one that I didn't have previously until I found out how fantastic the venue was, but Daisy Jones in Cape Town. We got to play there on this recent tour we did now. Um, and that was definitely a bucket list moment because that's also just a gorgeous venue and just such a good vibe there. Um, Definitely some bands that I perhaps like to play with. Obviously, sharing a stage with Lamb of God would be amazing. That would truly be a great opportunity, in my opinion. I've had goals in terms of what we've released. Fate of Visions 1 and 2 was definitely part of that to make the collective album. I know Warren's got a very big one. He would definitely like to get something of ours on vinyl. So when that becomes feasible and when we feel we've got a good enough following to make that mass order for that, that would definitely be a moment for him. The Metal Hammer feature, that's definitely one. And that's one that I never actually thought would happen. Like if you told younger version of myself that would happen, I would never believe it. So that's a big one that's been jotted off. Playing overseas would be really cool. We've got wonderful support from overseas and wonderful feedback. So it would be nice to actually play in one of those countries maybe and see some of those Instagram followers or something in person and see them at a show rocking out. That would definitely be a big moment, I think. Some of that is in the works. So if the funds are there and promoters or whatever on board, that would definitely be a great one to achieve. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. And before we dive into the last couple of questions, then, future plans for the rest of the year. Lay it all out first.
Okay, well, Cape Town was a big one that we got out the way now, so that's definitely, and we launched our album there, or launched the EP there rather. That was a good one. We do have a festival that we're playing in September. It's called the SA Open Air Festival from Doors Rock Radio. Worked with Doors Rock Radio before, fantastic people, and we did a headline tour with them a few years back as well in Joburg, which was really good. Looking forward to that festival. And the night we're playing, we are literally on a lineup with minus Vulvodynia, all the biggest metal bands that you can find in South Africa, or at least most of them. And we're in a pretty good slot in that lineup as well, like as the stage starts getting hot. So that's a nice one that we're really looking forward to. That's officially, I think, our last show for the year. We do have a free show that we need to do in Durban because one of our shows, we had a touring band here from Joburg with us, and that show actually got shut down by the police because of noise complaints. Like I said, we don't have proper venues here, so these kind of things can happen. Like we got wonderful venues, but I mean, they're not, music venues as such. So we've got a free show that we've got to make up for that. Just a way to say thank you to everyone that came on the night and got to see the first band play and so on. So that's something in the works. Aside from that, I'm not too sure. If any good opportunities come, we'll take it on. Otherwise, just pushing the album. We do have a music video coming out that we're really looking forward to. That has a very special guest on it. So that's something to look forward to in the near future. Otherwise, just planning, we really would like to get overseas next year sometime. So I suppose just raising as much funds as we can for that and getting as much stuff out there to get interest for that. And then, yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, hopefully we'll get to see you over this side of the world next year anyway. And we'll dive into the last couple. These are a couple of random questions now, but I'm interested to see your answers. So if you could see any performer, musician from history in concert for one night only, who would it be?
Ooh. That is such a tough one because there's so many. For me, For me personally, what am I going to say? I think I'm going to have to go with Jimi Hendrix. I could say Led Zeppelin or any of these other bands that I really love, maybe Cream. But I just think for what Hendrix has done for me and what he's done for the guitar world as a whole, a lot of these older artists, I think sometimes their influence is a bit underappreciated. Not that I'm saying he's underrated, clearly he's not, but I just think seeing that live would be something else. Feeling that music and being in front there, I think that could be quite something, yeah.
Without a doubt. Jeez. And if you had to be locked in a room with any musician from history for 24 hours, who would it be?
Oh, well. Now I've got to think about personalities as well. That is a tough question. Feels like there's so much weight on this answer. Can we come back to that one? So I can think about it.
If you, the next one is harder, though, I will say that.
Okay, well, let's see.
What song would appear on the soundtrack to your life?
Oh, goodness.
See what I mean?
Soundtrack of my life. Oh, goodness. I think Led Zeppelin's Thank You. And yeah, just to say thank you to like the amazing people that I've had to experience in my life, and like just special moments and stuff like that. It's just a beautiful song that I really like as well. Yeah, definitely that one. I think either that or some post-rock song, because I really enjoy post-rock a lot. Yeah.
Right. Very good choice there. And before I let you go, then, are you wanting to try answer the other one, or are you leaving it?
Okay, I think I'm going to answer this one with someone that I actually know. He's a fingerstyle guitarist here in South Africa, and his name is Guy Buttrey. And I think 24 hours with him could be cool, because he's got some good stories and awesome hobbies that he's into, like a bird watcher and stuff like that. And I do know him personally, but yeah, I think a full 24 hours could be interesting. Like, will we irritate each other? Will we not? And yeah, just pick his brain on knowledge, because like aside from metal stuff, I do enjoy the fingerstyle guitar side. So yeah, I think I could definitely pick his brain quite a bit on that.
Right, brilliant answer. You're actually the first person ever to pick someone you actually personally know.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, well, I'm thinking 24 hours, like I don't want to be disappointed for 24 hours by someone that I looked up to.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Ryno, listen, I've really enjoyed it. Now, genuinely, it's been a blast. Thanks a million.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was really a fun interview. Thank you so much for this, man.
A punch in the gut, the air leaves your lungs. They spit in your face and tell you their lie. It tells us all.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.